Today we're going to talk about using BlazeMeter Mock Services for Perfecto testing. A mobile app may require a number of back-end services in order to function properly. For example, I need an account service for logging in. I need transaction services to list the transactions in my account. I may need third-party services, such as in this case, I'm using a third party to do ATM lookups. Architecturally, it looks like this. I have my mobile device, which in turn is connected to a mobile gateway, typically using HTTP/REST as its protocol. Underneath that mobile gateway, as we've seen, there are account services for looking up accounts, transaction services for listing transactions, and there may be third-party services such as the ATM lookup we just showed. Well, this is all fine, but what happens if not all of the services are available for testing? The service may not yet be built. There might not be a test gateway available. There may be issues with third party. There may be problems with firewall or other network issues. Well, the solution to this is to use a virtual service, sometimes known as a mock service. What we can do is we can replace the mobile gateway and backend services with a virtual mobile gateway using BlazeMeter Mock Services. Now, the first thing that comes to mind when most people look at this is they'll say, well, my environment is way too complex to try to put virtual services all over the place to replace everything that's missing. And in fact, the reality is that in an example like this, where I have a couple of gateways, I have several middleware, and I have back-end services, including mainframes, the reality is when you're dealing with virtual services, you only need to virtualize your immediate neighbor, because all of the communication to all of these back-end services is encapsulated in the communication between the mobile system under test and the mobile gateway. So what are some use cases for using virtual services to replace mobile gateways? Well, one classic example is parallel development. In this case, we create a mobile virtual gateway so that the development teams have something to test against, that while the team that's actually developing all of the mobile gateway services can continue to develop those services independently. Another use case has to do with external development. Many organizations outsource mobile development to specialized mobile app creation shops. You might not want to make a live gateway publicly available during the development process. So in this case, what you can do is you can use BlazeMeter Mock Services to put a virtual service on the internet so that that third party can test their mobile app without accessing your own corporate network. Another use case has to do with missing dependencies. Sometimes the mobile gateway itself is available, but some of the services behind it might not be available. That could be down for maintenance. There might not be a test service available. There may be a third party that doesn't have a test or may charge for access. In this case, what you can do is you can use these virtual services to replace the services that are not currently available for testing. A third very important use case has to do with negative testing. Negative testing is all about creating an intentionally hostile environment for mobile testing so that you can ensure that the mobile application is robust enough to handle the sorts of things that can happen on a bad day. For example, I may create a gateway that is intentionally slow so that I can see whether or not the mobile device puts the proper notifications to the user when things are running slowly. I may have a gateway that intentionally gives me bad data to make sure that the mobile app is going to respond appropriately if it happens to get, for example, the word Oldsmobile when it's expecting a balance in an account. I may have a gateway that gives data out of order, and I may have a gateway that gives unexpected responses. Interestingly enough, one of the largest banks says that 80% of their testing is negative testing, due in no small part because people simply have no sense of humor when it comes to their own money. So what's involved in creating a mock service? Well, if you have an existing service, then the mock service can be created from a Perfecto HAR file. To create a HAR file, you run the test in Quantum. The device must have the MITM cert, which stands for man in the middle, the man in the middle cert installed, and virtual networking must be enabled. It is also possible to create a mock service from Swagger or Open API specs, and the data can then be loaded from BlazeMeter test data. This is very useful if you're early in the development process and there just is no gateway at all to record. In terms of recording a mock service on the device after you've installed the MITM proxy cert, you make sure that it's installed and enabled. In your Quantum test, you make sure that generating the HAR file is set to true. And then after the test is run, in your report library, you select download network files. Inside those files, you will find a pmtl.har file. This is the HTTP archive, which has all of the transactions that were recorded in between the mobile device and the mobile gateway. You then go to BlazeMeter Mock Services, create a new service, import the HAR file into that new service, and it will load the transactions into the asset catalog for BlazeMeter Mock Services. You then create a service from transactions, filling in the appropriate information about location, protocol, desired port number, and so on. Move the transactions that you want for your mobile gateway into the mock service. And then you enable the mock service, you save the transactions, click run, and it will then let you know that the mock service is ready to go. It will return for you the location of the mock service, which you can then plug into your mobile application, and now you're ready to test your mock services. Here we can see the network files that we downloaded from Perfecto, and here is our HAR file. So we go over to BlazeMeter, and we go into our asset catalog, and we tell it we want to create a new service, which we will call Perfecto Virtual Gateway. Into that new service, we will drag and drop our HAR file. It will then import the 47 transactions that we recorded into the asset catalog. Now we can go over to Mock Services and tell it we want to create a new mock service from transactions. We're going to give it a name. We'll call it our Perfecto New Digital Bank. Because we're going to be testing inside our network, we're going to be using the private location. We're going to give it the port number of 12,500, and we're going to assign the protocol as HTTP. So we've established the parameters for the virtual service. Now we're going to include our transactions. So we click through each page of transactions, copying those transactions into our newly created virtual service. Now we save and start our virtual service. Once the virtual service has copied the transactions into the new environment, created a new virtual service, created a new entry point into that virtual service, then we'll be able to test our mobile application against it. So here we can see our virtual gateway has now been created and at this address. So we can see here that our new virtual service has been created at this address and port number. So we're going to copy that. We'll go over to our mobile app that we are testing. And instead of going to the live service, we will now tell it to go to the virtual service. So we paste in the address. As you can see, we sign in. We go to our checking account to get our transactions. This looks exactly as if we had, in fact, been using the live service. It's giving us the same responses, and it's giving us those responses in the same amount of time that the live service would. Now, remember before when we talked about negative testing? Well, one of the things that we can do is we can take this virtual service and we can change the way it operates. So, for example, instead of coming back immediately, we're going to put a fixed delay of 2 seconds or 2,000 milliseconds in between each transaction that goes between the mobile device and the gateway. And we'll update this. Now, one of the things that's very important is this doesn't mean that every interaction at the mobile device is going to be delayed by 2 seconds. It means that every interaction between the mobile device and the gateway. So for example, when you do a login, there's actually 3 transactions that go over the wire before the user is told what are shown the next screen. So we take our address, we go to our virtual service, or we go to our mobile application, we put in our new virtual gateway, and let's sign in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And sure enough, there are 3 transactions. It's going to take 2 seconds between each transaction, and therefore it takes 6 seconds to do a login. This is one of the things that you discover when you start putting fixed delays inside of the mock service to start testing how well the application is going to respond on a slow day. Similarly, I go to do my ATM lookup, and I tell it the zip code I'm looking for, 1, 2, 3, 4. In that case, I can tell it took 2 transactions in order to get that information through. So this is very useful in order to show how well a mobile device is going to operate when the gateway gets slow, even if I'm not pointing to a real slow gateway. I can create slowness in the virtual gateway for testing. One other advantage of using a virtual service to replace my mobile gateway is I can change its responses. So for example, here, when I sign in, my checking account balance is $972.78. What if for testing purposes I need a different number in there? Well, I can come down here to my transactions, click on my get checking account information. Here's the response, and down here we see $972.78. Well, what if I want to make that, for whatever reason, $777.77? All right, so I save that transaction that I've now modified. I go back to my mock service, and I update it. So what this is going to do is this is going to replace that 972 value with the 777 value, and it is now restarting the virtual service in order that I can see that difference when I run my mobile app. So once more, we go back to the mobile app. Put in the address of the virtual service, and we sign in. And sure enough, we've now changed the balance in our checking account to $777.77. You can do a number of changes to a virtual services. You might decide you want to start testing edge conditions, and so you put various edge values in here. You may want to put some bad values in here to see if the mobile app is going to handle such things properly. So fundamentally, what we've seen today is that you can use BlazeMeter Mock Services to virtualize, to simulate a mobile gateway to make your testing more thorough and make your testing available even at times when all of the back-end services might not be